My brother's in-laws came to our all-inclusive vacation with no luggage or money. I left at sunrise. I'm frozen in the shadows near the resort's infinity pool, my mojito nearly slipping from my fingers, as my sister's mother-in-law's voice slices through the warm Florida night. I told you Monica would pay for everything. She's rolling in money now, and she's too sweet to say no. My sister's in-laws are actually laughing about their scheme to exploit my generosity, completely unaware that I'm standing just 20 feet away in the darkness, hearing every calculated word of their betrayal. In that moment, watching the family I trusted toast to how brilliantly they've played me, something inside me breaks beyond repair. Hi, I'm Monica. Today, I'm going to tell you my story. 4 years ago, I finally made it with my boutique marketing agency. After 7 years of hustling, living on ramen noodles, and wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake leaving my corporate job, everything suddenly clicked. My social media campaigns for small businesses went viral, and suddenly I had a waiting list 3 months long. I owed so much of that success to my younger sister, Vanessa. "You can stay in the spare bedroom as long as you need," Vanessa had told me during my darkest days. "I believe in you, Monday. You're going to make it." For 8 months, I lived in that tiny bedroom in her Tampa apartment while Vanessa and her husband Brandon dealt with my irregular hours and constant stress. They never complained, not even once. So when my business finally took off, I knew exactly how I wanted to thank them. I booked a 5-night stay at Emerald Coast Resort in Destin, Florida, an all-inclusive luxury property right on the Gulf of Mexico. The kind of place with pristine white sand beaches, private beach service, and a staff-to-guest ratio that made you feel like royalty. "This is absolutely insane," Vanessa breathed when we arrived, her eyes wide as the valet took our bags from my new Lexus. "Monica, you didn't have to do this. You guys are the reason I'm not still bartending at Applebee's," I replied, squeezing her hand. "Consider it interest on that bedroom rental." Brandon whistled low when he saw our adjoining ocean view suites. "I can't believe we're staying here for 5 whole days." Our rooms were side by side on the 8th floor, each with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the emerald green waters of the Gulf. Mine had a California king bed with sheets that felt like clouds and a bathroom with a rainfall shower bigger than my first studio apartment. Savannah, our personal concierge, gave us a tour of the property. "The signature restaurants require advance reservations," she explained, gesturing toward a stunning glass-walled building perched over the water. "But they're all included in your premium package, Miss Monica." That first evening, we had dinner at the beachfront steakhouse. The sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and orange as we clinked glasses of champagne. "To Monica," Brandon toasted, his eyes genuine. "The best sister-in-law anyone could ask for." I was feeling pretty amazing about myself, until I noticed Vanessa slip away from the table, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was hushed, but her hand gestures were animated. When she returned, her smile seemed tight. "Just checking on our neighbor who's feeding Mr. Whiskers," she said quickly, not quite meeting my eyes. Later that night, as I was drifting off to sleep with the sound of waves gently lapping outside my window, a sharp knock jolted me awake. The digital clock on the nightstand read 11:52 p.m. I stumbled to the door, confused and disoriented. I wasn't prepared for who I'd find standing in the carpeted hallway. Standing there were an older couple I recognized from Vanessa's wedding photos, Gerald and Patricia, Brandon's parents. Gerald had the same stocky build as his son, while Patricia's auburn hair was styled in perfect beach waves that looked suspiciously fresh from a salon visit. "Surprise!" Patricia exclaimed, arms outstretched like she expected an enthusiastic embrace. Between them sat 2 small duffel bags, barely enough for a long weekend, let alone a beach resort stay. "What are you guys doing here?" I asked, still half asleep and completely bewildered. "Vanessa told us about this incredible vacation," Gerald explained, already stepping past me into my room without invitation. "We had some time off saved up and couldn't resist. Hope you don't mind us crashing the party." Before I could fully process what was happening, Vanessa and Brandon appeared behind them in the hallway. "Isn't this wonderful?" "Whoo!" Vanessa beamed, though her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Gerald and Patricia had some vacation days expiring, so I suggested they join us for a few days. Brandon gave me an apologetic shrug. They can book their own room tomorrow, right? The resort website said they had availability. Something felt off, but I was too tired to argue. We'll figure it out in the morning, I said, already dreading the conversation with the front desk. The next morning, at the breakfast buffet, Gerald ordered a $45 seafood omelet and premium mimosas. Put it on Monica's tab, he told the server with a casual wave. She's treating us. Actually, I started to interject. Maybe we should. Nonsense, Patricia interrupted, patting my hand. Monica is so generous. That's what we love about her. She turned to the server. I'll have the lobster Benedict and a side of smoked salmon. Throughout the day, I watched in growing disbelief as Gerald and Patricia made themselves completely at home. They booked a couple's massage at the spa, reserved spots on an exclusive dolphin-watching cruise, and ordered the most expensive cocktails at every bar we visited. Our luggage got delayed at the airport, Patricia explained to a boutique employee while selecting designer cover-ups and swimwear. Just charge these to room 847, my room number. That evening, I checked the resort's app on my phone. My stomach dropped. They'd racked up over $1,200 in charges in a single day. When I pulled Brandon aside about it, he rubbed the back of his neck uncomfortably. They've had a tough year financially. Dad's hardware store has been struggling, and they've got some medical bills. Can't you just cover it? You're doing really well now. That's not the point, I said, trying to keep my voice level. They showed up uninvited, and now they're spending my money without even asking. They're family, Brandon replied simply, as if that explained everything. Vanessa said you wouldn't mind. Later that night, I needed air. I headed down to the pool bar, hoping a walk would clear my head. As I approached the illuminated blue water, I heard familiar voices around the corner by the cabanas. I told you it would work, Vanessa was saying, her voice carrying across the quiet pool deck. Monica's rolling in money now, and she's too sweet to say no. She always has been. Smart thinking, sweetheart. Gerald laughed, a sound that made my blood run cold. Why pay for a beach vacation when your sister-in-law will foot the bill? And this place is way nicer than anything we could afford on our budget. Just keep acting grateful, Patricia added, ice clinking in her glass. And tomorrow, let's book that sunset sailing excursion. It's $850, but Monica won't even notice with how much she's making now. Did you see her face when we showed up? Brandon chuckled. She was completely shocked, but she's too nice to make a scene or kick us out. I stood frozen in the shadows, my mojito forgotten in my hand. The tropical breeze that had felt so pleasant moments ago now seemed suffocating. This wasn't a spontaneous family visit. This was a calculated plan to exploit my success and generosity. My own sister had orchestrated this. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Vanessa, the person who'd encouraged my dreams, who I'd lived with during my struggling years, had turned me into a meal ticket. And she'd been laughing about it. I backed away quietly before they could spot me, my mind racing. I made it back to my room and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the moonlight reflecting off the Gulf waters. Everything I'd planned for this trip, the gratitude, the bonding, the celebration, felt poisoned now. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Having the best time. Thank you again for everything, sis. You're amazing. The hypocrisy made me nauseous. I barely slept that night, running through scenarios in my head. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard their laughter, saw them toasting to their successful manipulation. By the time dawn started breaking over the horizon, I'd made my decision. The next morning, I cornered Vanessa alone on the beach, while Brandon and his parents were at the complimentary yoga session. I demanded, my voice shaking, that Gerald and Patricia planned this whole thing? That they're using me? Vanessa's face flushed. She looked away, tracing patterns in the white sand with her toe. Monica, look. They've been struggling. Gerald's store isn't doing well, and Patricia's been stressed about money. I thought, you thought you'd volunteer my money without asking me? I interrupted, my voice rising despite myself. They showed up with practically empty bags and no intention of paying for anything. You set me up, Vanessa. They're family, Vanessa insisted, finally meeting my eyes with a defensive glare. We help family. You help family. You helped me when I needed it. I helped you, I replied, my voice breaking. I never manipulated you. As I walked away, I nearly collided with Savannah, our concierge. Miss Monica, may I have a word? Savannah asked, her professional smile not quite hiding her concern. In the resort manager's office, a man named Thomas showed me a tablet with my account details. I wanted to bring some unusual activity to your attention, he said carefully. The guests in your party have been charging numerous premium experiences to your account. How bad is it? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Nearly $6,000 in 4 days, Thomas replied, scrolling through the itemized list. Including a private yacht charter scheduled for tomorrow afternoon and a wine-tasting dinner for 4 at our signature restaurant tonight, $400 per person. I felt dizzy. I suspected as much, Thomas nodded. Several staff members mentioned that the older couple has been quite vocal about their free vacation and how generous you are. We wanted to verify these charges before processing them. I rubbed my temples, a headache forming behind my eyes. What are my options here? You can remove the authorization for charges to your account, Thomas explained. Any future purchases would require their own payment method. Outstanding charges would need to be settled before they could continue using resort amenities. Do it, I said. Remove the authorization immediately, Thomas typed on his computer. Done. I should mention there have been some other concerning incidents. My stomach dropped further. What kind of incidents? Yesterday, someone requested duplicate keycards to your room, claiming you'd lost yours. Our front desk clerk followed protocol and declined without your direct authorization. This morning, housekeeping reported that someone attempted to access your room safe. The violation felt like ice water down my spine. They tried to get into my safe? The attempt was unsuccessful, Thomas assured me. Our safes require personal codes, but I wanted you to be aware. I thought about my passport, my credit cards, the emergency cash I kept for travel. They hadn't just been using my money, they'd been trying to access more of it directly. That evening at dinner, I watched silently as Gerald ordered a $280 bottle of wine, while Patricia complained that the Chilean sea bass wasn't as fresh as she'd hoped. Vanessa kept glancing at me nervously, but I avoided her eyes. When Gerald tried to order the $95 Wagyu steak appetizer for the table, the server apologetically informed him that his card would need to be on file for any additional charges. What? Gerald's face reddened. There must be some mistake. We're with Monica's party. I understand, sir, the server said politely. However, each guest now needs their own payment method on file. 4 pairs of eyes turned to me. I took a sip of my water, saying nothing. Monica, Patricia said, her voice tight. There seems to be some confusion with the billing. No confusion, I replied calmly. I'm paying for my original booking, the rooms I reserved for Vanessa, Brandon, and myself. Any additional expenses are separate. The silence at the table was deafening. Gerald's face turned purple. Patricia's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Vanessa looked panicked. We need to talk, Brandon said to me quietly. Privately. But I was done talking. I excused myself and headed back to my room, knowing exactly what I needed to do next. The alarm on my phone vibrated at 4:45 a.m. I silenced it immediately and dressed quickly in the dark. My suitcase was already packed. I'd done it the night before after returning from that disastrous dinner. Outside my window, the sky was still deep navy, with just a whisper of pink beginning to appear on the eastern horizon. The sound of distant waves reminded me of what this vacation was supposed to be. Peaceful, joyful, a celebration of the sister bond that had gotten me through my hardest years. Instead, it had become a masterclass in betrayal. Thomas was waiting for me at the front desk as we'd arranged. His face showed understanding rather than judgment. A single lamp illuminated the otherwise empty lobby, and the only sounds were the gentle whir of the air conditioning and the distant crash of waves. I've prepared your final bill, Miss Monica, he said, sliding a leather folder across the marble counter. I've separated your legitimate charges from the unauthorized expenses. The difference is quite substantial, over $5,800. Thank you, I replied, handing over my credit card. I'll only be paying for my original 3-person booking and my own personal charges. Thomas processed the payment efficiently. What will happen to them? I asked, not out of concern, but morbid curiosity. The resort requires valid payment for all services rendered, Thomas explained. If they cannot provide it within 24 hours, they'll need to depart immediately or settle their outstanding balance in full. Our policy is quite firm regarding unpaid charges. We'll also need to bill their card for the yacht charter cancellation fee. As I signed the receipt, Thomas handed me a sealed envelope. Your breakfast to go and a voucher for a complimentary future stay. We truly appreciate honest guests at Emerald Coast Resort, Miss Monica. I'm sorry your vacation was tarnished this way. Outside, the valet had my Lexus waiting, engine running quietly. As I pulled out of the circular driveway, I caught one last glimpse of the resort in my rearview mirror, beautiful, exclusive, and now forever associated with betrayal. I turned off my phone, knowing what would soon follow. 3 hours later, at a charming bed and breakfast I'd found in Seaside, Florida, I finally powered my phone back on. It immediately exploded with notifications, 47 missed calls, and countless text messages. Vanessa. Monica, where are you? We knocked on your door, but you're not answering. Brandon. This isn't funny. Your car is gone. Did you leave? Vanessa. The resort says you removed payment authorization. Mom and Dad can't charge anything. What's going on? Brandon. They're asking us for a credit card now. They're threatening to call security if we don't pay. You can't do this to my parents. Vanessa. Gerald and Patricia don't have enough on their cards to cover everything. This is cruel, Monica. This is so cruel. Brandon. They're making my parents pack their things right now. My mom is actually crying. Is this what you wanted? Vanessa. The manager is escorting us to the front desk. We have to settle the bill or leave. Do you understand what you've done? You've humiliated my husband's family. I put my phone on silent and walked out to the bed and breakfast's wraparound porch. Below me stretched a different beach. Just as beautiful as the resort's, but untainted by manipulation and lies. For the first time in 5 days, I took a deep breath that didn't feel weighted down with resentment and betrayal. My phone continued buzzing with messages, but I ignored it. Instead, I sat in a rocking chair and watched the morning unfold, families building sandcastles, joggers running along the shoreline, seagulls circling overhead. Normal people enjoying normal vacations without schemes or ulterior motives. Around noon, curiosity got the better of me. I scrolled through the messages that had continued accumulating. Brandon. We're stuck at the Destin airport for 6 hours waiting for a flight with availability. My parents had to buy new clothes from a gift shop because we checked out so fast. Vanessa. I can't believe you abandoned us like this. After everything we did for you when you were struggling, I thought you were better than this. Brandon. Our flight got delayed another 4 hours. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. He had to take an extra pill. I hope you're happy with yourself, Monica. Vanessa. You're selfish. You've always been selfish. This trip was never about thanking me, it was about showing off your money. Well, congratulations. You've shown us exactly who you really are. The accusations continued, each message more bitter than the last. Not one apology, not one acknowledgement of what they'd done, just anger that their free ride had been revoked. I blocked all their numbers and ordered lunch from the bed and breakfast kitchen. A simple turkey sandwich and sweet tea. It tasted better than any of the expensive meals at the resort. That afternoon, I went for a long walk on the beach. An elderly woman selling handmade shell jewelry smiled at me. First time in Seaside? She asked. Yes, I replied. Those are often the best kind, she said knowingly. Sometimes we need to change course to find where we're really meant to be. I bought a simple bracelet from her, threaded with tiny turquoise beads that matched the Gulf waters. As she wrapped it, she said, "You look like someone who just set down something heavy." I did, I admitted. Family drama. She nodded sagely. Family's complicated. We think blood makes people loyal, but sometimes blood just makes us vulnerable to people who know exactly which buttons to push. She handed me the wrapped bracelet. Keep your boundaries strong, sweetheart. The people who truly love you will respect them. Her words stayed with me as I walked back to the bed and breakfast. For years, I'd believed family meant unconditional support, unconditional forgiveness, unconditional sacrifice. But what about unconditional respect? Unconditional honesty? That evening, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine and finally unblocked Vanessa's number long enough to send one message. You had 3 days to apologize or at least acknowledge what you did. Instead, you blamed me for not letting myself be used. That tells me everything I need to know. Don't contact me again until you're ready to be honest about what really happened in Destin. I blocked her number again before she could respond. The sunset that evening was spectacular, all purples and golds stretching across the horizon. 3 weeks later, back in my condo in Atlanta, I heard through a mutual friend, Vanessa's college roommate, who'd always been kind to me, that the story had spread through their social circle like wildfire. Gerald and Patricia had apparently tried this same scheme with Brandon's aunt last Christmas, convincing her to book a ski trip to Aspen and then conveniently forgetting their wallets. The family had been quietly tolerating their behavior for years, but the Destin incident had been so public, so brazen, that people were finally talking openly about it. They're basically persona non grata at their country club now, the friend told me over coffee. And Vanessa's been trying to do damage control, but people are asking why she was okay with manipulating her own sister. I listened without satisfaction or vindication. It just felt sad that it had come to this, sad that the relationship with my only sister had been poisoned by greed. Has she said anything about apologizing? I asked. The friend shook her head. She's defensive. Keeps saying you overreacted and that families should help each other without keeping score. Helping isn't the same as being used, I replied quietly. I never received an apology from any of them, just a brief voicemail from Vanessa 3 months later, slurred and emotional, blaming me for ruining her marriage, because Brandon's family was now ostracized from social events. She hung up before I could respond. But as I sat on my balcony that evening, watching the Atlanta skyline light up against the twilight sky, I realized I'd gained something more valuable than an apology: clarity. I'd learned that real family, the kind worth keeping, doesn't exploit your success or weaponize your generosity. Real family celebrates with you, not off of you. My business continued thriving. I hired 2 new employees and expanded into influencer marketing. I took myself on a solo trip to Charleston, South Carolina, 6 months after the Destin disaster, and it was glorious. No drama, no hidden agendas, just me enjoying good food, historic architecture, and peaceful mornings. I've since reconnected with cousins on my father's side who I'd lost touch with over the years. We're planning a group trip to Nashville next spring, and this time everyone's paying their own way. The conversation about logistics was refreshingly straightforward. No assumptions, no entitlement, just mutual respect and excitement about spending time together. Sometimes late at night, I think about calling Vanessa. I wonder if she ever reflects on what happened, if she ever feels genuine remorse rather than just anger at being caught. But then I remember standing in the shadows at that pool bar, hearing her laugh about how sweet and exploitable I was. And I know some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. The most expensive lesson I ever paid for $6,000 worth of unauthorized resort charges taught me that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about mutual respect, honest communication, and boundaries that go both ways. And sometimes, leaving at sunrise is the only way to preserve your self-worth and peace of mind. That turquoise bracelet from Seaside still sits on my dresser. I wear it on days when I need to remember that changing course wasn't running away, it was running toward the life and relationships I actually deserve.